Welcome back, everybody. I am having breakfast with the wonderful Mr. Ed Asner. As I'm saying this, it seems unreal to me, but yes, thank you very much for joining me, Ed. I was just thinking that between the two of us, we have 7 Emmy Awards, so I feel very good about it. And bon appetit to you. And as I was remarking to you that
I'm not sharing this breakfast with anybody.
oh, well, thank you. I take that. I take that to heart. I appreciate that. I was having breakfast watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was just about an hour and a half ago. I I came to the United States in 1989, so I did not watch the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I did not watch Lou Grant show until I started doing my research on you. I've known you much later in your career where I've seen you in Alf, and I've seen you in Up, and I've seen you in a bunch of places. And I ran across a number of your quotes on acting. And on my Instagram page and on my Twitter, Facebook, I post quotes from actors. So I posted a number of quotes from you, and that's when I said, I really like what Ed was saying. I need to invite him on. And once you accepted, I started doing all the research, and I've watched biographies and interviews that you have done. And I wanted naturally to watch the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So I bought season 1 and I started watching it. Now I can't stop. I love it. It's really, really, really good.
I can't understand why you didn't watch it at the time. You were old enough.
I was not quite. I was 5 years away from being born when the show started.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
What a jerk I am.
No,
Talk
no.
about flying in the face of reality.
No, I listen. I appreciate it nevertheless. And if I had watched it at that time, it would have had to be with Russian subtitles, because I didn't learn how to speak English until 1989, essentially, when I came to the United States. So, but by the way,
Wait a minute. You came in '89 from where?
from Ukraine.
Really?
Hmm?
My mother's family came from Ukraine.
Yeah, I saw that when I was doing research, and again, from one Jewish boy to another who likes
Their village was called Anatevka, I think.
Anatevka is very famous, because of Fiddler on the
Wait a
Roof.
minute. Well, then maybe I'm confusing it with the play. It was 35 kilometers from Odessa.
Okay, yeah. So again, beautiful, beautiful place. Ukraine is very pretty. The Odessa is wonderful.
Yeah.
When my dad was serving in the Navy there, he remembered going to Odessa quite often, and he really liked it. So yeah, it's your family came from a nice place, and they did a good job of getting out at the right time.
Well, compared to my father,
Yeah.
I would say my mother and her family were like gypsies compared to my father,
Wow.
who came from what's the next to the province next to Vilna.
Um, I have to look that up. I'm not sure. Is it from a bigger city, or
Hmm?
was he also from? Well, what country is he from?
Uh, I can't recall. Damn, the short-term memory just bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we as actors either possess, and then once we don't use it for a short period of time, it goes away quickly.
Well, I use it all the time. I was referring to it the other day. I should remember
Okay.
it. It'll come later.
No worries. Well, we have plenty of time. So yeah, and again, my first thought, by the way, as I started watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show, is I thought, oh my God, I did not realize that Loris Leachman is hot. That was my first thought. Because I saw.
Well,
Go ahead,
as
sir.
we get to know each other better, I'll tell you a story about how hot she was.
I was blown away. I couldn't. Again, Mary Tyler Moore is really cute, and she's wonderful in her role. But I was glued to Loris Leachman. The first time I saw Loris Leachman was about 15 years ago in Adam Sandler's Spanglish, which she was wonderful in.
In
And
what?
in
Film?
Spanglish, Adam Sandler did a.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. I loved the movie, and she was there. That was my introduction to Loris Leachman. So to see her in Mary Tyler Moore Show was eye-opening for me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I was like under her watchful eye from the beginning on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. We like to kiss a lot.
Okay.
So one day, maybe it was in the first year of the show, out there kissing the hell out of each other. I'm talking about we were hot. And got so hot that realized that the next act had to be quite sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, because she always had a big campaign against smoking and against fat. And I put on a lot of pounds on that first year of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So finally she said, all right, you lose 30 pounds and you can have me. I said, all right. I prodigiously set to work, worked hard, and finally reached the point of having lost 29 pounds. And I just couldn't move the needle that extra pound. So it's like we both accepted it and we both were relieved that we didn't have to do the final act.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Yeah, life is interesting in that regard. So yeah, I want to talk to you about acting, which is what this show is about. And
Oh, it's about acting, is it?
well,
What is acting?
sometimes. Thank you. That's one of the main questions I've been asking myself. What is acting? But one thing that I know about you is that from a very early moment on, probably before it was the in thing to do, people were looking at you as a realistic actor, as someone who was, even though you came from stage, you were a realistic actor. I wanted to ask you how that started. Was it just that's how you approached the acting, or it was a specific thing that you were going for?
I've never been asked that question. It's never been phrased that way.
Okay.
And I don't know what to tell you. I think there are so many gradations to realism.
Right.
One man's realism is another man's fantasy. And I guess I ended up studying. My main teacher in New York was Mira Rostova, who had a system called doings. Whatever you did, it was to influence the person you're talking to, or the air if necessary. So to coerce them, to affect them, to get them to react in a certain way, to inform, to demonstrate, to convince, all active verbs on another person. And I think I innately did that kind of acting from the get-go. That was behind the purpose of every statement I would make in acting. It was to influence, to convince, to sway, to question, to get a response from the other person. Now that sounds like a very simple formula for acting, but if one were to do it, and I think I did it innately, I didn't do it consciously. But if one, I wonder where she is now.
That was somebody else walking out. Oh.
I wonder where she is now. Well, I wonder where she is now. Casting suspicion on where she might be. I wonder where she is now. Worriedly, to project worry. I wonder where she is now. To enjoy the fact of supposing, of fantasizing what she's doing now. Now we can go on and on. We can make up many excuses.
It's very interesting. And when you started, I know you did a lot of work on stage. Then when you went to Hollywood, you were getting a lot of the heavy parts, or you were the bad guy, and it wasn't in the leading role variety. Did you get a chance to spread your wings from an acting perspective, or those were roles which were somewhat locked in? You were moving the story along, and you didn't get a real chance to show your range or feel good about it.
I'm sorry, what was the question for it?
Yeah, I was getting to that in the long-winded way of asking. When you started out in Hollywood and you were playing the heavies and you were playing the smaller roles, did you
character parts?
Yeah, did you feel constricted as an actor in those, or you?
Did I feel what?
Constricted.
Oh, no, I just I couldn't eat enough to you couldn't give me enough acting to satisfy me. So if I got to really put on some acting, then maybe my hunger pangs would be quenched. But within that, I did the realism, but I only made it comedic as it happened. I didn't try for the comedy, so that when I came to audition for the Mary Tyler Moore Show, I had to be led along like a kindergartner for the first time. My theory at the time was I'd always done comedy. I'd done it on stage, but I was always haunted by the fact of how do I repeat it? How do I capture the laugh again? and I would examine it and re-examine it and examine it and re-examine it. And the second night, I'd do what I thought was the same thing, and it wouldn't get a laugh. I'd do it again, and then maybe I'd fall off a chair, and I would get the laugh again. So I was afraid of comedy and ran from it and did it when I had to, because that was part of the job. But did not have the guts to seek it avidly.
Right. And I remember in biography that was done on you, Alan was talking about the the producer and creator of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He was saying that when you came in, your first audition, you did it as a drama. You did it as a serious one. And they said that when you walked in, you were perfect for the role. And as you did the audition, it was the worst audition ever. And then you talked them into doing it again, and this time you did comedy, and they loved it. So it's
I did it like a maniac,
yeah,
and that's what they wanted.
and that's wonderful. Unless it was Mary Tyler Moore who did not like that part. Unless it was Mary.
A few years afterwards,
Yeah.
I found it when she was told that I would be doing Lou, and she said, "Are you sure?" She had great doubts.
Yeah. Well, they were. I think once you did the pilot, those doubts went away quickly because it was wonderful.
Well, and each time we did it, and I learned the security of getting laughs, and that was it. The security of getting laughs. I became fortified and empowered for the next laugh.
Yeah. And which scene did you do during the audition? Was it the hiring scene?
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
You've got spunk.
Yeah.
I hate spunk.
I love the 65. That was my favorite part of that scene. The juxtaposition of the questions.
Yeah.
That
was fun.
That was great.
And she played it so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
She was a great comic actress.
Yeah. I thought Ted was wonderful.
Who?
Ted?
Ted?
Yes. Ted Knight? Ted Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, again,
He was the funniest person I'd ever seen.
Really?
Oh, there was a time there, once we were in the midst of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Gavin and I were walking by, and Ted was in a scene by himself and others. So Ted said, "Oh, listen, watch the scene and tell me what you think." Well, we didn't have to because we laughed our asses off, and it was funny.
Yeah.
And he came back out and he said, "Now listen, I want you to see the scene again. I'm going to do it a different way. And I want you to tell me which way you like best." And Gavin and I looked at each other. We were lucky to get a scene right the first time in terms of laughs.
Yeah.
And here he's talking about doing it an alternate way. So we watched it and we laughed again. It was still funny, different, very different, funny. And we couldn't tell him what to do. And he said, "Well, I'm going to try it the third way, and you tell me how you like that one." And he tried it a third way, and we were thunderstruck because he had gotten laughs in 3 different ways on the same scene. So he then decided to hunt and peck. He'd take a little from scene 2 from the second time or the third time and pepper it into the first time. But in the main, he did it the first way. So that's when I realized he's a master of comedy, and I'm a journeyman.
Well, a lot of people would argue with that, but yes, the later part, not the first part. Um, comedy is different. It's I've heard comedy described as a symphony where you really have to understand all of the parts of it in order for it to work properly, and it's an interesting way of looking at it.
Well, what I don't know. So, what do you call a tragedy? You don't have to understand all the parts of it.
That's a true point. I think the way that I understood that statement is that a comedy has a very specific flow that if you don't hit the right beats, it's not going to function as a whole. With drama, it's some actors. I don't know if I have enough experience of myself to say that, but some actors say that drama is easier than comedy just because of the kind of structure in order to get that reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Speaking of comedy,
Mhm.
I noticed in reading my paper yesterday that we lost David Lander.
Yeah.
That was Squiggy. Who was it? Squiggy and
Yeah.
Lenny.
huh?
Lenny and Squiggy
Lenny and Squiggy.
from Laverne and Shirley.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a shame. He had to suffer so much.
Yeah.
Did you remember seeing him?
In Laverne and Shirley, yes, I watched a little bit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's been a tough year. Let's put it that way. And then um, yeah, yeah, we'll get to some of your thoughts on this year and what's going on in a few minutes. But
My
it's
thoughts on this year? Phew,
yeah,
that's my thoughts.
pretty much,
Yeah,
pretty much. Listen, it's
Phew, again.
yeah. And it's not the twee like my parents do from the old country, which is put put put. This is
Yeah,
it's a different kind of twee.
yeah. Is it? Blech.
Yeah. Well, listen, the year is ending with my family and I getting COVID. So right now I'm going through the COVID protocol. I canceled my shows the last couple of days, and I was really focused on making sure that I'm good for today so I can talk to you. I'm fine.
Mhm.
I've noticed if I follow the protocol and take all the things that we're supposed to, knock on wood, it's good.
How many in your family?
Four, me included. So my wife, myself, and our two kids.
No, and how big a family did you come over with?
Uh, no, just my parents and I. Yeah, I have an older brother, but he went through Israel and then he came to the United States. 10 years later. So it was just
Uh,
my parents and I. They were 52 years old when they immigrated, and they did that so I don't have to go to Afghanistan.
You know what?
So I don't have to go to Afghanistan because I was 14. In 4 years I would have been drafted. At that time, all of the boys were going to Afghanistan, and they didn't
Yeah.
want that for me. So we were Jews, discrimination, as I'm sure you know, and it was they didn't want me to get killed in a war, so they
I
moved.
didn't want you to get killed.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't
So
want.
you had a partisan you didn't know about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Speaking of being Jewish, you grew up in an environment where you were really the only Jew around, and I don't know.
No,
Okay,
that was a substantial. We were certainly a minority,
okay,
but and the heavier Jewish population was on the Missouri side of Kansas City.
hmm
We were on the Kansas side,
right,
and we were a very limited group in numbers. But we had our own synagogue,
nice.
And I always felt proud of the fact that I lived on the Union side of Kansas City, not the rebel side. A lot of good it did me. Because we abutted Missouri, our schools were segregated, and we were dominated by the rigid apartheid tactics of the South in Kansas City. Kansas City was also a great liberator for jazz musicians. They'd come up from the South, and Kansas City was their gateway to the North. And Kansas City jazz tended to arise out of the powerful number of musicians who passed through.
Yeah. Did you feel from the acting perspective? I know as you were coming up, there was a part where McCarthy was having his say. Did you feel that being a Jew was not helpful at any point, or in Hollywood that wasn't really an issue?
No, I felt it wasn't helpful.
Okay.
But that I had to fight to the bitter end to preserve it and maintain it. Not that I bragged about it, but also my father was a junkman, so that there weren't a lot of things to crow about in terms of who we were and what we are.
Yeah.
So I was always we moved to a white bread area of Kansas City, and a sprinkling of Jews occurred in this area, and the older boys in the neighborhood, knowing what the answer was, would ask me, "What does your dad do? What does your father do?" And I reported it to my older brother and sister, who were home at the time. And my brother suggested, because he had already been through it, he said, "Just say your dad's in the used materials business." So I'd say, and so I'd say that to the non-Jewish preachers, and they say, "Well, what is that like, or what kind of business is that? You use materials. Is that like a junk man?"
Yeah, not nice. My parents went to my brother's. I have a 13-year older brother. So my parents went to one of the school. I think he was in middle school. One of the school meetings with the teachers, and all of the kids, all of the parents had to sit at their kid's desk. And my dad sits down at my brother's desk, and on it with a knife was carved out, "Go home, Jew."
No kidding.
Right. So my dad had a conversation with the teacher, and the teacher suggested that my brother is getting picked on because of the Jewish last name. Can my parents just change the last name? So my parents, there you couldn't change your last name, so they had to get divorced and then remarried. So my dad went on my mother's last name, which was a Jewish family with a Ukrainian last name. So my brother was born with one last name, went to another. I was born with another last name and then went to the first.
Uh,
So it's those stories. My own, I was a kid. I just knew that the same kids that I was hanging out with, which I think in my class there were no Jews. I just remember them calling me a Jew, and I didn't know what it meant because we did not have a synagogue. We were not religious. And I was running home crying to my parents saying, they're calling me this thing. What does it mean? I don't want to be it. And my parents explained, and that was my introduction to, being Jewish. So, yeah.
who is it?
Lisa.
Oh,
Your daughter's here? Or your daughter?
yeah. My daughter just came home.
That's wonderful. How is everybody? Are you all isolating in the same place?
Yeah, yeah. We're feeding off each other.
Yeah.
It's I'm eating the crust from that one, and they're eating the crust from another one.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of who wrote Journal of a Plague Year. What Englishman wrote it about a particular plague
Yeah.
that possibly the bubonic plague. I don't know,
Yeah.
but this will certainly be. There will certainly be journals of the plague year from this year.
Yeah. And from your household, or just in general?
No, not from my house. We're just living it,
Yeah.
living the life.
No, listen. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters. And you wrote a book, which I just ordered, so I haven't had a chance to read yet. But
I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
I
missed.
said I'm not paying for it.
No need. I paid for it.
Yeah.
Just like I
Oh,
paid.
don't tell me.
Yeah. Just
The
like
gardeners are showing up, and we're hearing nothing. You hear them?
it's a tiny bit. It's not a big deal.
Wait.
I can close the window.
We'll get rid of them, or try to get rid of them. Or we can always tell them, forget about it. There.
Yeah, you can tell them that the person that you're talking to has COVID. I think they'll run.
He's what?
You can always tell them that the person that you're speaking to right now has COVID. I think they'll just run. So
You're in Chicago?
yes, sir. I know you've spent some time in Chicago. How much did you enjoy my city?
It's my favorite city.
Really? Why so? Because you've been in New York, you've been to LA.
No, New York was always the enemy. Chicago's what made me.
Okay.
Yeah. I worked as a working man in Chicago.
Mhm.
I started as an actor in Chicago, and the two influences played a big part in who I am.
What were the two influences?
Belarus.
Belarus.
Belarus was my father's province
Got it.
on the border of Lithuania.
Hmm. Yeah, Vilnius is Lithuania. So.
Eh?
Vilnius, I think you mentioned Vilnius before, so that's Lithuania. Yeah. So Belarus and Ukraine. Yep. I think all of my extended family, everybody was
Now,
Ukraine.
Alan, I'm afraid the noise is going to be
It's a problem.
difficult for this deaf man. But go ahead, try it again.
I was saying that so your family is Belarus and Ukraine. Mine is only Ukraine.
Yes, it's the half breed in me that gives me the fascination of the performer.
I thought so.
Like
So
in hip hop, to do both camps, the Litvak and the Belarus camp.
yeah. So this show again, the love of acting. Where does your love of acting come from?
Well, try it again.
Where does your love of acting come from?
Being a Jew, I guess. I uh, it certainly, compared to the tight asses of most of the non-Jews I was surrounded with, emotion came easy. Should I give out?
Yeah.
Cry, 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 tears and laughter and no binding. We weren't the only minority that were liberated, so to speak, in terms of emotions.
Mhm.
But we just carried it to different heights than the non-Jew did,
Interesting.
and that helps. That's why so many early comedians, even now, comedians now, were Jews. They could scrape up the last particle in the barrel.
Yeah. Speaking of Jewish comedians and actors, did you know Mel Brooks or any of Mel,
I,
Carl, any of those?
wait. Okay, try it now.
I was saying, speaking of the Jewish actors and comedians that you may have come across, did you spend any time with Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, any of that group?
And that was even before then. I mean, Eddie Cantor. Eddie Cantor was God.
Yeah.
George Jessel was around, and further on came oh God, how I hate myself. Um, Carl Reiner and Sid Caesar, and I'm thinking of who were the leading. Well, George Burns and Gracie Allen, naturally, two prominent Jews.
Yeah.
Milton Berle, I didn't know Milton Berle as a youngster.
Mm.
Certainly came to know him later. There were many.
I got it. And who out of, I know you've mentioned that Ted was the funniest man that you've ever worked with. Who was from a pure acting perspective, who was the best actor that you ever got a chance to work with?
That didn't matter. I would say that why I'm an actor, probably because of all the character actors I became exposed to growing up. Watching the Percy Kilbrides, the George Bancrofts, the unbelievable stock of character actors that populated Hollywood in those days. C. Aubrey Smith, Basil Rathbone, Nigel Patrick, endless roles of great actors, and most of them character actors.
So that's what you aspired to be?
Yeah, no, I didn't. They just influenced me. I never thought about acting as a kid.
I got you.
It just happened.
Yeah. And thank God it did. You you have 763 IMDb credits. That's more than anybody that I've had on the show. Just so you know.
I think I like to play the numbers game in talking about it.
Yeah,
It and now I'm buttering my toast.
I see.
I had my eggs and they were good. Now I'm buttering my toast, and I trust that you'll join me. Would you like some?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Well, you can't have any, buddy.
You like toast? I hate toast. Yeah.
You're funny.
Thank you. I like to think so. My wife disagrees with me.
You know what? What? How long have you been doing this job?
This particular one for 7 months. It'll be 7 months in about a week and a half.
And what? What's the name of the show?
The Love of Acting.
I see. I see. Oh, how many interviews have you done like this?
You are an interview 130.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Have you learned any secrets?
Yes. Yes. I've learned that there is no linear path in acting at all.
That what?
There is no linear path in acting at all. I've learned that well, I think the biggest thing that I hear from everybody in terms of being an actor is don't be a dick.
Don't be a what?
Don't be a dick. That's I think seems to be the main line going through everybody's experience of if you're nice, if you're a professional, then things eventually work out if you stick with it long enough and you have talent. So then we get to the part that I truly admire about you, not just as an actor, but you, because of you speaking out, because of you caring about people, because of you not wanting to stay silent, you closed some doors for yourself at the height of your career and the height of your successes. I admire that. I am of the same persuasion. I just lost, this is not my full-time job because it doesn't pay yet. So I do IT consulting, computer programming. And I was interviewing in the last 2 weeks for 2 roles, both of which pay a lot of money. And I lost both of them because I told them that I'm doing this show. So I can admire and respect a person who is truthful. And people want everything to be in a nice little bubble where they're comfortable as long as you don't speak out. So I admire a great deal of what you were doing in your career because there is a career and then there is your own truth. And you speaking out your own truth, whether it hurt your career, you were okay with that. I admire that a lot.
Would you mind telling me what shots you missed?
So the two IT related jobs, I aced the interview. So if we look at them as auditions, the casting director was giving me ready to give me a hug, and then I told them, hey, just so you know, during lunch I'm gonna be doing this show, and they put the stop to it. They said, nope, we want you to be doing your job. So, you know what? I need to be honest and truthful, and I'm okay with the consequences. So, as the more I learned about you, the more I saw that it was not easy for you to be that way. And the admiration and the fame that you had suffered because you spoke out.
Well, I certainly admire that about you.
Thank you.
I didn't know it before. I know it now.
Yes.
It's an admirable thing that your producer should kusher and tochas.
Yeah, they should. Given the fact that I'm on my own producer, that would be difficult, but I'll start doing yoga and see what I can manage. Yeah, it's why is it? And again, you've had a lot more experience in this, but why is it that people usually have their blinders on and they only want to see you in one particular light, and as soon as you step out of that, they get really uncomfortable? Why is that?
Well, things get shot down so easily in our business.
Yeah,
A wayward word or line or sentence
yeah,
can doom it. So I guess it's protectionism, as any manufacturer will tell you.
yeah,
Clean out the ginks, clean up the mistakes,
yeah.
present a straight arrow.
Yeah, but they don't want a straight arrow because a straight arrow will tell them like it is. They,
Yeah,
yeah, they want somebody to shut up and do your job and
yeah. Unquestioning.
yeah, they want the unquestioning, which is
What did your father do when he came to the country?
so there he was a mechanical engineer. He was well known. He had like 27 patents to his name, and he came here and he was washing dishes and cutting bread while getting his education.
I'm the goddamn.
I'll wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
He was a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
He was well known. He had 27 patents to his name. And when he came, he was overnight washing dishes and cutting bread while he was getting his education so he can start working again. Did you hear that part?
So he was a developed adult.
Yes, he was 52 years old, and I have a lot of admiration for what he had to go through.
Well,
6 months today,
for you,
half a year today.
my daughter just conveyed to me that this is her 6-month anniversary of giving up smoking.
Congratulations. That's very, very
I'll
important.
give her those.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
Mhm.
she was hooked.
Yeah. How long did she smoke?
Most of my life.
All of her life.
Yeah. Well, my dad, we were talking about my dad. He smoked since he was 13 or 12, and he smoked until he was 38. And the doctors told him, well, you can either quit smoking or at some point we'll take off your leg because you're going to have thrombosis and you need to make that choice. So he quit cold turkey. and he hasn't smoked since. To this day, when I talked to him, he said occasionally he dreams about smoking. But since that time, he's never picked up a cigarette, and it's very difficult. I've never smoked, so I don't know how hard it is. I can just judge based on the people that I talk to, but I know that 6 months of not doing it. Congratulations, keep with it. It's a big accomplishment.
Well, I have to tell you, even now,
Mhm.
in terms of me, I go through a crisis or I go through a tense moment. I get over it.
Mhm.
Nothing I would like to do more
Nice.
Absolutely.
nothing I would like to do more than go out and that first puff, take it,
Always.
blow it out, and you're blowing out all the evils.
Yeah. And then you think of Cloris Leachman and you say, nope, I'm not going to do it.
She never smoked.
Right, but she didn't like smokers. So,
She what?
but you said she didn't like smokers. So I
Yeah.
thought, using that, it didn't work. Okay.
She became a pain in the ass in her campaign against smoking.
Okay. Speaking of the campaigns and a lot of the all good.
What?
I was saying, speaking of your activism and the campaigns that you were involved with, you were always ready to lend a hand. Is there one particular cause that you felt most passionate about?
I thought it branded me as a communist,
Yeah.
but the efforts I made on Central America were important.
Yeah.
They woke a certain number of people up who hadn't cared or thought slightest about Central America. I was proud of what we achieved there. Right now, my big cause célèbre is suing the Screen Actors Guild for its. I'm part of the suit, I should say,
Mhm.
for dropping
The
veteran members of the union
Mhm.
in terms of health benefits.
Mhm.
It's criminal.
Yeah, it's
And I'm on a 9/11 committee
yeah.
of lawyers, primarily, who question the accounts of what happened on 9/11.
Yeah. I hope at some point we're going to know what happened. Usually, living in two countries like the former Soviet Union and United States, you learn very quickly that there's only certain amount of truth.
Okay. He's on Zoom. He's on Zoom.
I've interviewed, dear.
It's for you.
Thank you. This is Alan. I'm my host. That's Alan, my host.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My son
You
Matthew.
died.
Hi, Matt.
I didn't know you were doing that. Forgive me, everyone.
No worries at all. Listen, it adds to the ambience.
What'd you say?
I was, what was I saying? I was saying that living in the former Soviet Union and now in the United States, one learns very quickly that there is only a certain amount of truth that ever comes out of what happened anytime. So, thankfully here, you have more people like you who are trying to get that truth out.
Yeah, but we're much more. Oh God, that goddamn blower. He's gonna set up a camp outside my door. In our country, the means are much more subtle and hidden, as opposed to if we were in the Soviet Union, where authority creates a heavy fist. So it's more difficult to fight the hypocrisy here. In the Soviet Union, you either fight it and get jailed. That's our pet little bulldog barking away there.
Yeah.
But we'll get over it. Dudley! Shut up.
People are going to recognize that as your voice in Up.
He's my worst audience. You have a much better audience than he is.
Thank you.
And eventually, the gardener will die and we can go on.
If only it was that simple.
Can you hang around until he does?
I think so. As long as I continue with my COVID protocol, I should be good. Otherwise, I don't know. The last couple of days certainly brought some times where I began to wonder.
Well, it's amazing how you look at cast pictures, be it of Lou Grant, where half the cast has died, or Mary Tyler Moore, where the ladies are the long-lived ones.
Yeah.
Horace, Betty White. We lose some of the young ones, like Georgia, who played Georgette, Mary, Ted, the stars of the show.
Ted went really early. I think he was 63 or so.
Is that all he was?
I think so.
I didn't know.
He passed away very early. Unfortunate. I know Ted, again, not from Mary Tyler Moore because I didn't see him there. I saw him on Caddyshack. So that was my introduction to Ted. But yeah, I thought he was amazing. So I was very happy to now see his work. Yeah.
Well, he used all the tricks he had piled up on Mary Tyler Moore.
I saw that. I still use from Caddyshack. I collect sayings and phrases, and I use them in life. So from Caddyshack, one of Ted's sayings, "You'll get nothing and like it." So that's the one that I keep on using. I've done that for I don't know how many years now. So in terms of acting, is there anything that you've found from your long career where you can pinpoint and say, when I did this, it worked really well?
When I did this, what?
It worked really well in terms of my career, in terms of my performance.
I really can't nail anything down.
And that's common. Yeah.
It wasn't comedy, but when I did Rich Man, Poor Man,
Mhm.
and played Axel Jordache, I was so fervently desperate to make that character breathe fire and live.
Mhm.
It was very important to me. And I think, well, first of all, I felt I was wrongly cast in it. I read the book and I identified very strongly with Axel. And I thought Philip Dorn would be a perfect Axel Jordache. But Harv Bennett, God bless him, was the executive producer. And he wanted me. And I thank God for Harv Bennett. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's still with us or not. But I went. If he went, I hope it was peacefully. And if he didn't, I hope he does go peacefully.
So when you break down any role, what is the approach that you use that works really well for you?
I look for the kinks and quirks.
Mhm.
I look is he a wise guy? Is he a peasant with the cunning of a fox?
Hmm.
I look for the individual traits. I really don't know what I look for.
Yeah.
I read it
Mhm.
and then say, or eh.
Is there, I know that you're an avid reader. So is there a particular quote that stayed with you that you keep applying to your life?
No.
Okay.
No. I've done so many characters and roles that they trip over each other.
Yeah.
And I start out normally. I play my normal self.
Mhm.
And then as I'm going along, I then see where the writer wants to take me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I put out my thumb for the ride.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about TV is that you get a chance to really get into the character. I talk to actors all the time when they say, in the show, it really took me about 4 episodes to understand and to find my way into the character fully.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you find that that's the case as well, or?
it's true. It's all true.
Mhm.
Or unfortunately, there are times when the reverse can happen,
Yeah.
where you can come on spanking brand new and lots of pizzazz, and by show 2 you fizzle out.
Hmm.
They're not inspired to write for you.
Makes sense.
It happened to me with a show I was on. It was a bridge kind of in my career. It's called Slattery's People.
Okay.
And um, I was the press spokesman for a politician, Richard Crenna, who played Slattery.
Mhm.
And there's, excuse me.
I'm glad I didn't get the toast.
What?
I'm glad I didn't get your toast.
The we did a number of shows in the beginning, and I read it on. It was a many tekel person.
Mhm.
Thou weighed in the balance and found wanting. I found that there was a very strong anti-authoritarian resolution to the man,
Mhm.
and he would fight against authorized opinion. The problem was, I was the conscience of the show. The
Yeah.
problem was, unfortunately, that the conscience of the show was Slattery. So that they couldn't have me doing his job while he needed to do it.
Yeah.
And that went on for a while. And finally, I realized, this is during the first 13,
Mhm.
that there's no room for me here. And I went out of the show. And they came back and they said, well, we'll let you out of the show. As long as you agree to come back and do the show we have planned for the same money, which was Bubka's. And I said, fine. So the show was where, as the conscience of the show, I was placed in jail
Mhm.
because I wouldn't name names and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was the best show I could do in that area. But it meant jailing me, and it meant trying my goodwill.
Yeah.
It would never happen again. So I did the show and collected the poor money
Mhm.
and went on my way
Okay.
and was freed.
Mhm.
And it worked out well.
And speaking of jail, because of your activism, you, Marty Sheen, who is from my favorite show ever, The West Wing, both got arrested quite a few times. Did you ever count how many times you got arrested?
No, I never counted. They're like show trials.
Yeah.
They don't mean much.
Yep.
I spent a night or two in jail, I guess. I can't remember.
Yep.
But the cause was worth it.
Yeah. That's good. Any regrets throughout your whole career?
I didn't save enough money.
Yeah.
For instance, I had a very good deal with Lou Grant,
Mhm.
which is the series that was canceled because of
Yeah.
my political activity.
Yep.
And I think it was an escalated pay.
Oh.
So it was on for 5 years. So I think in the 5th year, I really got into the big money for the time.
Yep.
And of course, that's the year that we got canceled.
Yep.
So I didn't have time to sock away any of the money that came out of that show. And it's the only show that ever paid off that way. Maybe next time.
Maybe. I hope so. In terms of the voiceover work, when did that start for you? Because again, I've heard you in many places, but when did that start?
Well, the amazing thing is that in my group
Mm-hmm.
that I started acting with, two ladies were the giants of the group, Zora Lampert and Elaine May.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed in my voice so much at the time that I would lead with my voice on whatever character I played. And the ladies would poo-poo my emphasis on voice.
Yeah.
So I began to wean myself away from making the voice sound like Barrymore. And it helped. It helped. It created the variety in me. And yet now, 50, 60 years later,
Yeah.
I still have the voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I still want to lead forward with it.
Yeah.
Because my body's racked with pain, and there ain't no place to go with my body. So my voice will take me to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Just trust me and my voice.
And they have. And I was wondering, kind of again, going throughout your career, when Luke Grant got canceled, and
Oh, I didn't tell you that.
yeah,
Yeah. So being a liberal, there were many voiceover opportunities, but I never took advantage of them. I never did commercials or anything like that.
right.
And Ted Turner started Captain Planet.
Mm-hmm.
Being a liberal as he was, and they cast it with a liberal bent, they decided to make me hoggish greedily. And it led me to inventiveness and caricature,
Mm-hmm.
and was my opening and my ability
Mm-hmm.
to do voiceovers, and led to other cartoons. And it's funny, many of the cartoons were led by the fact I was a liberal.
Really?
Liberal first, voice second.
Well, then I shall have a really long and prosperous career.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So, are there any secrets to your longevity and acting success?
Persevere.
Mhm.
Always persevere. But whatever you do in life, persevere.
Yeah.
And people will drop off all the time because they're not persevering.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those who stick it and those who don't.
Yeah.
And maybe I found things too easy, that I should have ended up owning a studio. That way you find out whether you did the right thing or not.
Last few questions for you. And by the way, we don't hear that noise anymore. So did he die or they just went away?
I think he's collecting his check.
I get you. All right. Well, either way, we're happy. Yeah. How do you want to be remembered?
Good actor.
Perfect.
Could have been better.
I like that.
Another way of putting it was he didn't take enough chances because he was too busy protecting his hoard.
Interesting. And if you had to give one piece of advice to your young self as you were starting out in acting from your current vantage point, what would that be?
Persevere again.
Okay. And save money.
And those who strike the deepest chords are those who don't follow the herd.
Yeah. Well, you certainly were the one like that, and you still are. And
I could have been more individual.
It's life, right? We strive and we continue growing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mr. Asner, it's been a pleasure having breakfast with you. I really appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing. And I wish you a lot of health and continued productivity so we can hear your voice over and over again for many years to come.
You got me.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And
thank you.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in and to another episode.
Long life.
Huh?
A long life.
Yes, a long life to both. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in into another episode of The Love of Acting. This is why I started the show, so I can have these types of conversations. Thank you.